Hello, everyone, and today, welcome to another episode of Financial First Aid. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Miss Jamil Rivers, and she is the CEO of the Chrysalis Initiative. She's an impressive leader with a record of outstanding performance in a multitude of industries, utilizing analytical abilities to drive organizational improvements. He also is known as an innovative advocate with extensive experience in performance-based budgeting and grant development, financial and managerial control design, compliance and audit, and IT-driven process redesign and implementation. She's a fantastic entrepreneur, and that's the reason why I'm having her on my program today. So I'm introducing her today more so as the founder and CEO of the Chrysalis Initiative. It's a nonprofit organization committed to addressing the racial disparities and inequities of breast cancer treatment between white women and women of color. This organization provides health care and health treatment navigation support, provider education, and barrier intervention. Hi, Jamil. Good to have you.
Hi, thanks for the invitation.
Yes, it's really good to see you. And just tell us a little bit more about the Chrysalis Initiative.
So the Chrysalis Initiative was launched um, a year after I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, and got involved with advocacy and found that women of color were dying at a 42% higher rate from breast cancer. So we're the only national organization that deals with disparities specifically. So making sure that all women that are connected to us are receiving standard of care, and that providers are understanding how bias and racism is within the healthcare system. And so, beyond social determinants of health or social economic issues, but how specifically bias and racism needs to be addressed within the healthcare system.
Great. And the reason why I invited you on, because in Financial First Aid, we mostly discuss issues around entrepreneurship. And I've had a couple of other people on that have nonprofits. And so I wanted you to just kind of give our audience an idea of the whole connection between nonprofit and entrepreneurship.
Well, I think entrepreneurship, whether you're working as an employee or if you decide to launch your own company, it's important because you're going to go against the grain and not just fall in line with the status quo. I mean, if we just continued and layered on the status quo, then there's no innovation. So I think entrepreneurship can be embraced whether you're a student, whether you're an employee, or if you are, a CEO. And so I think anytime you can come up with a new if you have an idea and you want to see it through, or you want to see change, or you want to be innovative, that requires entrepreneurship.
And what kind of sparked you to say, you know what, I'm going to launch this nonprofit?
I think it was the fact that, with me getting involved with advocacy and how that really benefited me to make sure that I could get the best care. But most patients are not going to be type A project managers, assertive and willing to advocate for themselves. And so, you shouldn't have to have a PhD in oncology in order to make sure that you're getting standard of care.
Right.
And so the same way that if I go to the dentist and I need a root canal, I should get a standard root canal. I shouldn't have to know dentistry to make sure that I'm getting a root canal. So if I'm a woman and I'm diagnosed with cancer, I should be receiving the best care for me, and that should not be tainted by bias or racism or whatever. And so that really was the spark as to just seeing that void in the landscape, all the burden being put on the patient to navigate through all this challenging labyrinth, if you will, in order to figure out how to get the best care when you're in an overwhelming situation. And
Right.
so having more balance where the providers have more accountability and, improve their care delivery and systems in order to meet the needs of Black women.
And what were some of the obstacles that you encountered while you were starting this journey and getting your nonprofit started?
I think the biggest thing is that in this particular landscape, you have the Comens, you have the Living Beyond Breast Cancer, you have breastcancer.org, you have National Breast Cancer Coalition. These are organizations that have been around for over 20, 30
Hmm.
years. And
Right.
so when you're a new company, entering into this landscape, why should people support you? So it really was establishing what our branding is, how we differentiate ourselves between all the other organizations out there that have been around much longer.
Hmm.
And so that really was the biggest, hurdle, just being able to establish the brand, getting that, that brand awareness, and for people to understand how we're different and how the status quo isn't acceptable anymore.
Hmm. And the emphasis on how you're different is that you specifically speak to women of color. And did you find that there was a void in those other organizations that you mentioned earlier that wasn't being addressed that you thought that your organization could address?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the running narrative or belief was that these disparities in Black women were due to social determinants of health, and that's it. It really wasn't touching on the racism or bias at all.
Hmm.
And our organization, the Chrysalis Initiative, it's focused on eliminating the disparities in Black women, but we provide services to all women. There are
Hmm.
certain white women that are vulnerable to disparities as well. So if they are younger, and diagnosed with breast cancer, if they are living in a rural area, if they're single, those are all indicators as to what could potentially make them more vulnerable to disparities. And so, really, we're the equalizer where we're trying to make sure that if you are going to a cancer center and receiving care, that you're receiving standard of care.
Wow, that's fantastic. And do you have medical people that you reach out to help advise you and your board of people that you work with?
Yep, absolutely. So we do have oncologists on our board, and we have a team of medical advisors that we work with all various specialties, whether it's oncology, radiology, surgery, pharmacy. So that way we can make sure that we can connect, our patients with all those resources. So we're also connected to 2,000 hospitals right now, where
Wow.
we help them with just seeing their blind spots when it comes to their care delivery of certain groups. And then also making sure that patients can access, national standard of care, even if they're in rural areas or in the South, or maybe have healthcare access issues, whatever the case may be, but making sure that that equalizer is there and it's not reliant on circumstance.
Wow, that's great. And as a nonprofit, do you find that you have better access to some of the government grants that are out there in terms of getting healthcare or no?
Well, actually, the Chrysalis Initiative we set up where we wanted to have more diversification. So we only have 10% of our grants that are government funded right now. And
Hmm.
we find that, going to foundations, going to the for profit realm, or for profit companies that are interested in corporate philanthropy, that they are more willing to invest in innovation. So it's
Okay.
not just what the status quo is. A lot of time with government opportunities, it's more so just layering on what has already been done, and we didn't want to do that.
Cool. And so I know you've done work with for-profit companies as well as work with nonprofit companies. What do you see as the distinction between the two? Or is there a distinction
Mm.
between the two? There may not even be one. That's why I'm asking the question.
I actually think nonprofit finance and organizational management is more difficult, only because you don't necessarily have to um, have be a organization that has no profit, meaning that you don't have to have a loss or break even every year.
Right.
It's fine to reinvest in an organization and have a surplus at year end. I think, but there's just more restrictions on the funding, what you can use, more reporting requirements. If it's a for-profit company, depending on whether or not if it's public or not, it's just a standard operating procedures and reporting. But
Hmm.
with nonprofits, you have the funding sources, you have of course, the governance and filings for compliance annually across, state lines. So it does put more of an administrative burden on nonprofits, and also with lower pay historically, it's harder to retain talent. And so
Yeah.
for us, we've also been focused on, getting people that are talented across the board. So investing in Black researchers, having women of color that are being paid for their insight and their advocacy, making sure that they're trained on standard of care. And then even our, executive team, our administrators, our, project management, our marketing, we're investing so that, you know, we're not we're not apologizing for making sure that we're investing, in our team and really rewarding talent so we can retain them.
Absolutely, because that's like paramount, especially now,
Right.
'cause because it's hard to find good talent. And then when you find them, you really need to, keep
Yes.
them on board.
Hmm.
So I know
Yep.
that you've been like all over the place in terms of promoting your project. Let's tell the audience about. Let me see. I know you've been on Good Morning America a couple of times. You did a what is it? A Netflix uh,
Well,
documentary. Oh, okay. I'm
we
sorry.
have
Okay,
a
sorry.
documentary that we're filming right now that we're hoping to, that will be aired on Netflix. And we do have a couple of campaigns that have won awards in Cannes,
Yes, please
for,
tell us about that.
inequality you can't ignore, and also our Race the Line campaign. And so we're really proud of that. But it's bringing public awareness to this particular issue because unfortunately, a lot of people still aren't aware of how bias and racism affects, care.
Right, absolutely. Now, aside from you being this very corporate person, how about your personal life? I know you're a mom, you're a wife. How
Mhm.
does all of this impact what you do at home?
Oh, well, I mean, I feel like the most important thing, whatever work or whatever, passion projects that I have going on, the only thing that matters is me having that freedom to be able to do what I want to do on a sunny day. And so I think about, okay, well, it's my driving compass is my family. And so what do they need? That is my legacy, making sure that, I mean, they're already incredible, empathetic, compassionate, amazing little people, but I want to make sure that they continue to grow and have all the support that they need to become amazing adults. And so, yep, that's pretty much all I'm worried about is, loving on my family, making sure they know how much I love and support them, and everything else that I do pretty much revolves around them.
So right now, with things being so kind of awkward and strange in the economy, what would you tell someone who's thinking about starting a business
Mm.
at this
Actually, the best
time?
time to start a business is when the economy is having turmoil. So, like for instance, during if you think about like all the great companies that we invest in now, Amazon, is one of those companies that was started during a downturn. So when there's economic downturn, there's opportunity. If you think about when the Chrysalis Initiative was launched, that was in December of March of 2019, but we really blew up in 2020. And so that's when the pandemic hit, the economic downturn was,
Mhm.
all over the place. But a lot of the best businesses that kick off is during those economic downturns where there's opportunity.
And that's so good to let people know that although things may look bleak, now might be the
Hmm.
best time for you to get started in a business if you have an
Right.
idea that you think is not being addressed. So I always end my podcast with three things: what you can tell the audience to motivate them, what you can tell them to educate them, and what you can tell them to inspire them. So one at a time, give us some motivation.
Mm. Motivation, I would say that, life is short. And so, making sure that you're pursuing your passions and being your authentic self. So that's really key. And educate, I would say, there are so many great resources out there to learn about, if you could think that you have a unique idea,
Right.
but somebody else has probably done it. And so you can learn from where they went wrong, and connect to, different resources. You don't have to figure out everything on your own. And make sure that if there's something that you don't know about, secure that talent to do it for you. There's nothing wrong. You don't have to do everything by yourself. Delegation is key as well.
Yeah.
And then inspiration, I would say, focus on, what puts wind in your sails and pursue that. So what is it that you love, that you're passionate about, that you would do for free, that, you really find yourself floating and motivated, when you're doing that work? That's where you want to gravitate towards. What gives you joy? What is not stressing you out? What, is providing you with fulfillment and meaning? That those are the different activities that you want to gravitate towards.
Wow, that's fantastic. So tell the audience how they can connect with you and the Chrysalis Initiative.
All right. Well, the easiest way is bcnabi.com. So www.bcnabi.com. And then also there's the chrysalisinitiative.org. So all of our social media and the full website you can find at bcnabi.com.
Thank you so much, Jamil, for taking the time to spend with us to get us to all know about not only the entrepreneur behind the nonprofit, but also the great cause and the great work that you're doing with the Chrysalis Initiative. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.